I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada Carriacou and PG Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CR FM, 92.9 Sister Round Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live videos, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube, wherever you may be. A very special good morning to you. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada. On my way to work this morning, I'm coming down the hill in Mount Morris, and I look into down in that Grand Anse area, and it was just so beautiful, so clear after so many days of dust and the outside, the atmosphere looking misty and foggy and hazy. It was a breath of fresh air, literally and figuratively, to see how beautiful that area looked. You know, and I just felt so happy. I mean, where else would I want to be at this point if not Grenada? We live in an island that is so beautiful. Just the scenery alone grants you serenity and a peace of mind. Where else would I want to be? In studio with me this morning, I have none other than Mr. Roland Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan, and of course a very pleasant good morning to our listeners out there by whatever means you're hearing us. I really do hope that you had a restful night that rejuvenated your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, and make you prepared, have you prepared for another day of fantastic living, hard work, productive day. I wish you the very best of it.
All right. Well, Mr. Bola, we're getting right into it, because we have a lot to talk about this morning. And in addition to that, we have a special guest. But I know people are going to say, well, they talk about it Tuesday, or they talk about it Friday, today is Wednesday, and they're still talking about it. And I want to make this point. As long as misinformation is out there, it is our duty to ensure that the population is properly informed and provided with factual information. So last night, I was going through my news items, regular news items, keeping up to date on what is happening. And I came across a clip on MTV.
Can you play it? Do you have it here?
I could find it,
Well,
but before I play it, what I want to emphasize. Now, yesterday, Mr. Bola, before you came in, I was talking to the people and telling them, oh, no, you were there when I was saying it, man. Anyway, it's important for us to start calling people out. We're good at saying government lie. Even if government didn't say nothing, they say any lie. When I was listening to the Prime Minister's press conference, his address to the nation on Sunday, and I'm looking under the live video, Mr. Bola PM don't even start to talk good yet. They say the man lying.
But probably you didn't hear him. You did not hear him talking. Maybe those who commented, they knew what he was going to say before.
Maybe.
Because I had people telling me long before the speech, well, the Prime Minister come in and say this and come in and say that.
I hear we have 23 cases that he come in and announce.
Well, I did say to them quite politely, well, if you had a one-to-one conversation with the Prime Minister on what he's going to talk about in his speech, what he's going to mention to the nation, I didn't have that opportunity. So let me not create an argument with you. Well, you know Bola, but you don't want to tell us. Well, how would I know what the Prime Minister is going to say when the man had not said it yet? So, that's how we operate.
And Mr. Bola, it's very funny because I heard about the 23 cases. I heard people saying, oh, well, we had 23 cases on the island and they ain't saying nothing. And, I want to give us the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Bola. But also, I do not want to believe that as a people, we digress so quickly. Because I remember at the very beginning of this entire COVID-19 debacle, we were all in the conversation of who lying, who hiding cases, who don't want to say what cases. And I really thought that as a people, we have grown from that from that point where we understand that it is absolutely impossible, and it is not beneficial to the government of Grenada or Ministry of Health in the state of Grenada at all to hide COVID cases, you know. And I want to say to the people out there, whenever somebody comes to you and say, well, here we have X amount of cases, and you hear otherwise, and they still come in and tell you, well, no, they lie, they have... the question you need to ask them is, well, where is your proof and information to say otherwise? You know, because if the Ministry of Health in the state of Grenada is telling you that there are no cases on the island, and you know for a fact that they lie and they have 23 cases, then you must provide proof of that. You know, it is time that we come from this place where we just accept information without factual data. You know, we run around with a lot of hearsay information and treat it as if it is facts. And it is time for us to come from once somebody tell you something and they cannot provide factual information to prove or data to back up what they are saying, you must question the validity of their statement. And it is time that we start thinking along those lines and come from that place where we just take anything and run with it just because we feel that it sounds good.
Well, of course, Mr. Keeler did once say take something and run. So
he didn't mean that, though.
Well, of course, that is left to our interpretation. If you believe that's not what he meant, I won't even argue that with you. But in the minds of some people, probably taking falsehood and run with it, news that cannot be verified, things that are not verifiable, and run with it, may be what their interpretation of take something and run or pick up something and run, whatever the song was, which brought him the international Soca King title. So some people probably following in that vein. I hope not, because I mean, this whole COVID-19 issue should have taught us a lot of lessons here in Grenada in particular. I mean, we're seeing a lot of what is happening outside of Grenada in the international world. We're seeing that in America, in over 25 states, there have been at least a 25% increase in numbers. You know, while there are a few states where the numbers are dropping, many states that they thought they had it under full control and they were reopening and people started dropping their guards and becoming careless. Restaurants and bars was booming again. People were up in each other's face, no face covering. They stopped obey the distant protocols and things like that. And now many of them are backtracking. Many of them are now enforcing and trying to put in place the rule that you must wear a face cover and you must have a face mask once you're out in the public. Something which we did very early in Grenada. Something that some of our people are trying to resist and push back at and saying that it's not necessary. But we are not the experts here. The experts are saying to us, based on all the information and advice that they would have had locally, regionally, and internationally, it makes good sense and will protect us from each other and from spreading if ever we do catch another case, because we cannot. While presently there are no cases that have been medically proven in Grenada, and the ministry and the COVID team is correct in saying there isn't, because there really isn't. Neither you nor I or even the team knows where the next case is going to come from, or even if there's somebody in this country at the moment, because while a significant number of tests, both rapid and PCR, was done on a good cross-section of the nation's people, we have not tested every single individual in Grenada.
Right.
That is factual. We may never be able to test every single individual. There may not even be a need to test every single individual. So that leaves a great percentage of people with the possibility of being asymptomatic, as they would refer to it, that probably is carrying around the virus, and I hope not, for our sake and the sake of all our people, that has never been tested and can easily spread. So it is worth the while for us to continue to understand and obey the protocols and take the precautionary measures until the world is declared free of this pandemic. Not just Grenada, but the world. We don't know. In a lot of countries, the mighty America, people are crossing the borders. People are coming from nearby states on small craft and all kind of thing. Are we to say here in Grenada that no one is crossing our borders? We try to protect it. The airport is closed. The seaports are closed. But do we know for a fact? Can we ascertain with the greatest of accuracy that nobody whatsoever ain't coming on a fishing boat and do something? I don't know. I also hope not. But what if? And I don't want to call another or a neighboring country's name for anyone to say I'm accusing a country. I don't want to do that. We are just looking at what is commonly called an hypothesis. What if someone sneaks in on one of our bays, one of our shows, on a small craft, and that person may be the carrier of the virus, not being checked, not going through the regular protocols where once you enter the country, you are being tested and quarantined for 14 days. And that person is able to go into a community unknowing to the authorities. And we have another spread start. And this time it will be community spread coming from that person to another person and the community start getting it. But if we are all obeying the protocols, reminding ourselves that once we are out of our premises, we need to wear some kind of face covering, that we still need to be careful that we do not sneeze and cough openly in public, that we wash our hands regularly or use hand sanitizers after we touch knobs of doors and gone into the buses and different places, because we don't know what viruses are left behind on those surfaces, that we keep our physical distance when we're in lines to go to the bank or some other financial institution, or we enter the supermarket. I see some businesses are still obeying the protocol, that they will have these notices up that say not more than 2 persons at a time inside, or 3, or based on the capacity and how much they can hold at any one time, that would allow people to be physically distant at least 5 or 6 feet from each other. So yes, they're trying. The busmen are doing an excellent job thus far in terms of requesting that people wear their mask while they are on the buses. They are hand sanitizing when people are entering. The drivers, and in some instances where they have conductors, are wearing their mask. And we need to keep that up. For how long? I don't know. Maybe another week, maybe another month, maybe 6 months. It all depends on how quickly the rest of the world and our neighboring countries become COVID-free and we remain COVID-free. And the only way to do it is to use those protocols to our advantage as we have been advised. And let's stop this total foolishness of spreading false hoods and false news about this one, that one, and the other. You know?
I felt like we were past this point, and because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Bola, and I like to believe that once education and information is provided, that we can grow from one place to another. So when I hear these things, it really disappoints me, because it shows that as a people, instead of progressing, we are digressing. You know, and maybe not in all areas, but where it really counts, which is in the media and in the eyes of the rest of the world, we sound silly. You know, we sound silly. And I don't want to be painted as a silly person because I'm Grenadian, you know. So I just want us to move from that place. And it's time for us to start. You want information in hard to find. Let's work with the facts. So on that note, Mr. Bola, I was telling you about a news clipping that I saw recently. And I'm going to play the news clipping, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity, Mr. Bola, to comment on this piece of news clipping. And that is why I reminded the general public that it is important for us to listen carefully to what people say to us. But not just that. I feel disrespected as a person, as a Grenadian, when somebody tells me or continues to tell me lies about things that are easily verifiable. I feel disrespected, because it's like you saying, man, they're stupid, they would never understand what we're saying, so let we just say it anyway. They go with us because they don't like Keith Mitchell and they don't like NNP. So anything we tell them, they go just eat it up and run with it. That is how I feel when somebody puts information out there, and especially from people who know better, or at least should know better. When they tell you things and they go in the media and say it. It's not just them on their personal page just giving their opinion, or them in a little roadside setting saying something. When they go on public forums and they speak about these things, so that the local community and the international community is hearing what they're saying and making judgments based on what they're saying. What they're saying is not true, but it's also easily verifiable. So I'm going to play this clipping for you guys, and then you'll tell me, Mr. Bola, tell me what you think. Just give me a moment here. Let me put this on. I have to pause one to put on the other. All right.
There are a couple of myths, very well, that we have exposed as well. The fact that the Nutmeg Association indicates quite clearly that it has been 20 years or more since government has assisted them. I believe it's 1999 that they got any assistance from government. So this myth that they have been going back all the time and getting help from government, and that is one of the reasons why this takeover is proposed, is totally unacceptable. It is incorrect. And we have spent time with the board today listening to what their issues and concerns are, because we as Grenadians, we cannot allow that to happen.
The National Democratic Congress is encouraging all nutmeg and cocoa farmers to unite in the struggle against the present attempts by governments to hijack the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg and Cocoa Association.
Mr. Bola, you've heard it.
Well, to respond, excuse me, correctly or as best as I can to that, I have to ask a few questions. Mm-hmm. Either one, our lady who, in this case, in this news item, has been speaking, is the present leader of the National Democratic Congress, a former government minister, Ms. Franca Bernardin. Either she has been absent from Grenada and the happenings in Grenada for quite a while, or she's just prepared to be mischievous, or she's very well misinformed or ill-informed. Because from what you're saying, separate and apart from the assistance that government has been giving consistently to the organizations, which I'll deal with shortly, the rationale for the merger has never been associated with the fact that the associations consistently requested bailouts from government. Now, people may want to add that in order to bring greater clarity to the fact that either there is some level of mismanagement or there is some inability of the associations to handle their business so proper, and the business of the farmers, that they can stand on their own 2 feet or sit on their own bottom whenever there is a crisis. Yes, so people may have used that to say, well, look how many times they would have asked or requested of government financial and other assistance. Now, that is separate and apart. But that is not the basis. That is not the genesis from where the issue of merger came from. So it is untrue to say that government is requesting today a merger due to the fact that on occasions request was being made by both associations for assistance. So we have to demit that and debunk that, because that is not the genesis of it. That is not the rationale for it. And we have said even on this program that this is an issue that has been in the making for more than 20 years. We did hear, and we went back into the history to speak about the fact that the nutmeg industry almost collapsed, went on its knees in the early 90s, because of the lack of or the inability for us to command reasonable prices on the international market. It was so bad that I believe at the time, and I can be corrected, but what I remember, that the price that was being paid to the local farmers at the time for a pound of nutmeg went down as far as 50 cents per pound, or $1.50, somewhere thereabout. But it was so insignificant that farmers decided that it was better not to even collect or harvest their nutmegs and sell it to the pools. So much so that the then Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Mr. George Brizan, somewhere in the Belvedere, in an area that used to at one time be the best producing area for nutmegs, the highest quality, size, and so, was cut down and went into banana production because he indicated that at the time it was much more profitable to produce banana than to produce nutmegs. Therein lies the genesis of the CEDA report, which came in 1992 around that time, requesting that merger of the commodity boards would have been best because cocoa at the time was also under serious financial problems. And it was felt from way back then that if there was some kind of merger, that you would cut costs, you would cut overheads, and there'd be more benefits for the farmers. So for now, Ms. Frank is saying, oh, it's as a result of assistance, and which he did back in 1999. And you see, since in the early 90s, 1992, this issue was out there. So it was way before she's even making mention of. So that is not, and it's really not truthful to say, is as a result of that. The government has seen, and all of the reports are there, where several consultancies were done, studies were done, the legislation, the methods of operation, the export strategy, what is available, what is not available, the forward thinking and planning of management. They were all examined, and there are several reports that has been written. There was even the nutmeg strategy that was done after Hurricane Ivan as to how we can move forward. And when you take all of that, including the archaic legislation from since the 1940s, there is this stark reality that the method of operation now of these associations do not fit with modern day business style.
Right.
And government is saying to them, look, if you merge, because they themselves have recognized that there are so many areas where they already have commonalities. They themselves have recognized that almost 80%, in their own words, of the farmers who produce nutmeg produce cocoa.
Right.
What is the need for two separate associations when one association can more effectively do the work and service the same people at the same time and bring better benefits? But getting directly now to government assistance, I know for a fact that in the early 2000s, when the association came forward, meaning Nutmeg Now, to government, with a request for a loan. In fact, what they requested at the time was a grant, I believe, and I hope I'm not mistaken. Because based on the ordinance, you can and should give back pay when there is a trading surplus, when you are complete at the end of the financial year, which normally ends like yesterday, the 30th of June. You will look at your books, you will do all your auditors will come in, they will do whatever. And then when a profit is being declared, a percentage of that, well, the majority in most of the instances before, would go towards giving the farmers a back pay. Because somewhere along the line, and I'm not sure if it is legislated or if it was a common understanding between the farmers and the association, that the price they were actually receiving when they go to deliver their nutmegs at the receiving stations was the what they call the upfront price, but there was a certain sum that was being held back,
Right.
that will help form the back pay.
Right.
I'm not sure. We'll have to verify that if it is legislated or if it was just a common understanding. But I've heard people speaking to the effect that, look, whether they are being paid $5, $4, $3, whatever it is, was not the real price. So if you are being given $3, the real price may have been $3.50, but the association say upfront you get $3. At the end of the trading year, you would get your 50 cents as a back pay. I think the Marketing and National Importing Board operates a system similar to that, that farmers will supply produce, they get a payment, and I think whether it's a 5 cents or 10 cents or something, on every pound is being held back. And around the end of the year, when most times we would want a little extra cash to do different things, you can go forward and they will give that to you. Yes, that's how it was working. So about 2003, 2004, the association approached government saying, look, we have not been able to pay a back pay to our farmers for quite a while, and we cannot allow another year to go by and not do so. So they were looking for monies from government so that they can effect a back pay.
Right.
The government then said, look, we can't give you a grant because we're taking the taxpayers' money, which include farmers, taxpayers, because I heard Honorable Oliver talking about taxpayers' money being given, and a farmer called sometime after, a little bit upset, wondering if farmers do not pay taxes too. But I think it was about
Right.
taxpayers mean all taxpayers.
Right.
Whether you're a market vendor, a taxi driver, a farmer,
All
a
Grenadians.
fisherman,
Yeah.
all Grenadians who pays tax. When government takes these monies and either loan or grant to any association, it is monies that was paid because that's how government gets its resources. It's from taxes. And who pays the taxes are the Grenadian people. So it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. So about that time, $5 million, EC dollars, was a loan to the association to effect a back pay at the time. And that was after 1999. Yes?
Right.
And that is to the Nutmeg Association.
Right.
2017, towards the end, I think it was actually November, the Cocoa Association now went into the ministry and said to the minister in a meeting that they had, the dialogue, that they may have to cut the price that they were paying to farmers for their cocoa, for their produce. Mm-hmm. When they go into the buying point that the association has to sell their cocoa, prices may have to be cut because they were not then, as they claim, receiving favorable prices on the international market for the commodity.
Right.
In other words, what they were getting outside, they could not maintain and continue to pay the farmers here what they were paying.
Right.
So the intent of the board of directors was to cut that price that the farmers was getting. The minister then went to cabinet, had a dialogue saying to cabinet, this is what was going to happen. The cabinet, in its wisdom and its love for the farmers, said, but at this time, based on what was being paid, I think it was $1.50 thereabout, a pound for the cocoa, wet cocoa. The dry ones was a little more. If we are going to cut that, maybe by 50 cents and start paying $1 or so, you would be restricting the level of earnings of these farmers significantly.
Right.
And it will impact on their lives negatively. Mm-hmm. The ability to take care of their needs would be significantly hampered. So government then made an offer or said to the association, look, we do not support at this time the cutting of prices. Mm-hmm. But we understand due to your financial situation, you may have to. What if we're able to support you by giving a loan? They proposed, the association went, they crunched the numbers, they did the maths, whatever they did, they met and agreed to accept a loan of $3 million from the government at an interest rate of 3%, 5 years to repay.
Right.
Which they felt very comfortable with, which the manager and the chairman and whoever else, an accountant, signed on the dotted line saying that we accept this money as price support, as a loan, right, so that we would not have to cut the price. Because they also felt that they could have recovered not too long from that on the international market, because it is the same association and members of the board that claim to us that Grenada's cocoa is being traded on the world's market as fine flavored cocoa, and that it was fetching a price 30% higher than what other cocoa producing nations was getting, because we were considered to have the best quality.
Right.
So again, it was government coming in and saying, we can give you that at a cost of 3% per annum, which you must repay when you start making good profits again, so that the farmers can benefit.
Right.
Yes? Then came COVID-19, which we know affected almost every business, whether you were state-owned, whether you were a corporation, private entities, it didn't matter. Government had to help with what they referred to as the bailout, where several businesses got assistance from government to keep them afloat and for the ordinary workers to be able to get something. Now, the Nutmeg Association sent in a proposal which government accepted, agreed to, and that proposal in its entirety said, look, you have asked for $3 million. What government is going to do is give you $1 million in grant for, again, price support. So, because the Nutmeg Association finds itself in a position now, presently, where they want to accept produce from the farmers but cannot pay them readily. So as you're bringing your 100 pounds, your 50 pounds, your 25 pounds, they are not in a position to take your produce and give you cash immediately. Right. So that $1 million that government is giving them as a grant says it must stick to price support. So you should be able to pay the farmers and let it not be used for anything else. But you requested 3. We are going to give you another 2 as a loan at an interest rate of 1.5%. With 7 years to repay. 2 years moratorium. 2 years in which you can relax and, do what you have to do, build up your reserve, and so before you start paying. The Cocoa Association did send in the proposal a little after the Nutmeg Association, requesting $2 million. Government then again said, we accept, we agree. $1 million in grant for price support again, making sure farmers continue to receive the prices that they are receiving, and because of the economic downturn now and the fact that you may not be able to reach the international market and send your produce out, and you may have stock in hand but don't have cash, that $1 million is to assist with the payment to farmers. The other $1 million, you will get it as a loan. Similar conditions, 1.5% interest annually. 5 years to repay. 2 years moratorium. So they have 7 years in which they must pay back that $1 million. That is in addition to $3 million which came from price support in 2017. Yes? Now, in addition to that, so to say that government has not been giving assistance to the associations, it is so far from the truth.
And Mr. Bola, I want us to pause there for a moment, because remember a few weeks ago, and maybe recently as well, I said to people, whenever somebody says nothing is being done, the question must be asked, what has been done before? Because if you are saying nothing is being done, it means that must come from the foundation that you know what has already been done.
Yes.
So clearly we understand from all of this that the statement nothing is being done is now being just thrown up in the air to make people believe or to make people agree or see your point of view, when you cannot even identify, because what you have given us there is a wealth of information over a period of time way ahead beyond 1999.
Yep.
And for people to sit and generally mislead the public, you see, that gets me upset. And it gets me upset because it's like, and I don't see how people don't see it this way, but maybe because I think differently. It's like looking at me in my eyes and saying in your mind, she's stupid, she would never understand what you say. We just go in on the basis of emotion. We know that she doesn't like this individual. So regardless of what we tell her, she will agree with us. She will stand with us. She will fight with us. But we know it's we lying to her to get that sort of response out of her. And as a Grenadian, I don't know how I feel about people's thinking that way about me and doing that kind of thing to me. I mean, we are quick to say that the government lie. We are quick to say that the government is speaking mistruth. And even though the government can provide facts on what they're saying, we still turn it around and say they lie. But Mr. Bola, a bunch of people come in and tell us a bunch of lies, things that are easily verifiable with no facts, no data, no proof to back up what they're saying. But we quick to jump and defend.
Well, okay. The fact is, the last portion of money requested by the associations, whether they receive it in hand already or not, I don't know. Because remember, I said the government has agreed. Okay. Now, I have here in my hand a copy which I was able to obtain from a letter. It's a copy which I will just read out clearly, and a similar one, is my understanding, was sent to GCNA. It says here, and it's on the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands letterhead. With, I mean, I don't know if people who are looking on the live can see this. This here is it. It's not a document that I have made up for myself. It is something, and it is signed by the prominent secretary with the stamp of the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands on it, Mr. Elvis Morin. And that letter is dated 18 June 2020, and it's addressed to Mr. Christopher Williams, Chairman, Grenada Cocoa Association,
Right.
Kirani James Boulevard, St. George. I'm reading the entire letter. Dear Mr. Williams, and then it has in bold letters with a line under it, financial support to the GCA. In response to the GCA's request for financial support due to the impact of COVID-19, the ministry hereby informs you that Cabinet at its meeting on the 8th of June 2020 approved the following terms and conditions for the disbursement of a grant and a loan to the Grenada Cocoa Association. 1. Grant 1 million. The grant is to be used as price support for the purchase of cocoa. Direct support is there in bracket. No part of the grant shall be used for the payment of salary, wages, or board fees. GCA must communicate to the farmers the amount of grant support provided by government and the purpose for which it is provided.
Right.
2. Loan 1 million EC dollars. 6 years loan, 1.5% interest, 1 year moratorium. I said 2 and 5 years, but it's 6. I knew it was 7 years, but it's 6 and 1, not 2 and 5. 1 year moratorium, fixed asset as security. Cabinet mandate that the merger between the GCNA and GCA must be a priority for the GCA and so going forward in the future. Right? So they're saying, look, we are mandating that you take this thing on, do it, because it will be best for you. But they clearly said, and a similar letter, which I don't have a copy of, would have gone to GCNA, which was before GCA got theirs. That's June. I've heard, however, the prominent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture saying that the GCNA has since responded to the government, saying that we are in acceptance of the terms and conditions laid out here. Right? And so what was in the process of happening is that for the loan component of it, with legal affairs and whoever in Ministry of Finance, they were working on the terms and conditions. At the time when he spoke, which was about nearly 2 weeks ago, he said they were still awaiting a response from the Grenada Cocoa Association as to whether or not they will accept. But it is known to them that it is made available and the purposes for which it is made. So that's one. But we can go into further assistance that was given, Michelle. So when one would say, and Ms. Bernardine would publicly denounce that no assistance was given, come Hurricane Ivan, when that was done, the government of Grenada, in communication with the commodity boards, cocoa in particular I can speak to, said, look, as a means of our assistance to you, while we do not have cash to give you X amount of millions, here's what we'll do. We will now take on the responsibility to pay your daily paid workers, the smaller people, not the monthly paid. You are going to determine for yourself as an association with your own management how you handle that. Whether you ask your monthly paid people to take a cut because of your downturn in finances or so, that we will take on. So the people who were working at propagation stations, were working in the fields, were working in the formentry in Mount Horn and other places where they dry the cocoa and where they what we normally say sweat the cocoa to cure it and to get it prepared for the market. Government said we'll take that responsibility. Up until the time when I left the government system, when I no longer participated, I knew that the government was still doing that while the association was given a chance to rebuild itself after Hurricane Ivan. All of these daily paid workers were being paid by the government. Whether that is still the case today, I do not know, and I don't want to speak to that until I find the information out. But I knew for quite a lengthy period, years, the government said, we'll assume and take that responsibility. So much so that during the period that government was paying, and these are employees of the Grenada Cocoa Association, people that were working with them. So much so that during the period while government was paying, several of those retired. They got to the age and they had to be retired. I remember government saying, look, based on your financial situation, we shall pay a percentage of the gratuity upfront to them now because you said you did not have the money to pay them instantly.
Right.
And government paid, I think, 40% of what those people who retired gratuity would have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then the association was meant to pay the final amount. Time lapse. They never paid. They came back to government and said, you made a promise. But nobody could have shown the cabinet conclusion that said we were going to pay all. It was always government saying, I'll assist you by paying the first part, the first tranche, the first portion. And then because it was the responsibility of the association to pay off these people when they got to the age for retirement. They were their employees. Government was just assisting in paying their salaries due to Hurricane Ivan and Emily. It came down to the point where these people weren't getting their money because the association kept saying they didn't have it. Government got someone to look into the situation and then agreed that government will continue and paid them all off. So if that is not assistance to the association, then I don't know what it is. There were several times when government, I remember at that time being minister with responsibility for agriculture. When one of my regular meetings with the board, the chairman, the manager was there, the same two people who are holding the same positions up to today, said that there was what they call significant outbreak of witches' broom, especially in the St. Andrews and St. David's area in the cocoa fields. Witches' broom is, I think it's a fungus or something that affects where the leaves become very small. They have this growth on the trees, and it will significantly reduce the ability to produce fruits, cocoa pods.
Right.
And they wanted to know what assistance government could give. Now, this is on farmers' land. But yes, it will affect the association. If farmers cannot bring in produce, then you don't have produce to meet your international demands and commitments that you made. So you must be concerned. What did I do? I went to the cabinet and I said, this is the situation. And cabinet decided whether it was $100,000 or $200,000. Whatever it was, I don't remember the figures now. I don't have the documentation in front of me. But I know government came up with some money and said to the association, well, match what we're doing. Get your teams in place and send them out. This is money for wages to them to help eradicate that, to go into the farmer's field and prune out and trim out these things. Yes? So why are you saying that government is not helping? The production or the propagation of all the planting materials, the cocoa plants, the nutmeg plants, are done at propagation stations owned and financed by government. Whether it's Maribo, it's Boulogne, it's Ascendon or Maran. Government is who pays the workers that work there. And the farmers get it at highly subsidized prices. You pay $1 for a cocoa plant. Do you know how much it costs to go into the field to get that piece of sucker or germplasm, as they would refer to it, and to bag the soil and to put in all the chemicals and to put those things into the bin and to get them to after you soak them in routine powder, get them to start sprouting, feed them in the bags, keep them under the soil netting, wet them every day for months so that they get to the stage where farmers can now take it and plant it in the fields. $15, $20 a plant is what it would cost. And you're getting it at $1 and $2. And you're saying government is not assisting? And I mean, I can go on and on with fertilizer when government received from the Kingdom of Morocco and other areas as gift. A certain quantum is being set aside for both associations.
Right.
So that they can, and most of the times it is being sold to the farmers. The proceeds staying with them, not coming back to government.
Mr. Paul, I have a question because I think it's something that needs to be highlighted, and maybe when we have Mr. St. Bernard come in and give us the history or the genesis really of the Nutmeg Association, we'd be able to better understand what is happening. Now, I want to find out for my education and also more so for the education of the general public. What is the roles and functions and responsibilities of the GCNA and GCA to the farmers? Why do the farmers need them for that line of contact?
Well, of course, when they were formed many, many years ago in the 40s, my understanding of it, and like we say, we are trying to get someone who knows the history far better than I do to explain the rationale. These associations had responsibilities for purchasing locally the farmers' produce and then getting it out, As the years went by, the issue of value added came about, that we're just bagging our primary products, sending them out. They're being manufactured and coming back to us in different ways at exorbitant prices. And all around the world, that it was in the transformation, getting into secondary products, that was really making money, and therein lies the desire to push forward. And then you had the chocolate factory and other little manufacturing being done in different places. Yes, but when one look at the ordinance, which we do not have copies of with us in here this morning. It says in the ordinance what the core values were, what were the purpose to at least bring maximum benefit, to try to exploit the greatest of returns, so that the farmers can get the very best for their labor, from their lands, and so forth. So the association has its purpose, but the mandate, I don't know how wide it is being spread. And so there are a lot of things that are desirous by farmers that are not being provided by those associations. And whether it is because the legislation do not allow them, or is it because the lack of vision by management, or is it because they are not managed authentically enough so that they can see the reserves to divest or diversify, divest, it should be, into other areas that can bring further benefit to the farmers. I am not sure if that's the reason why, but the association was set up to play a vital role. It should be a pillar of strength. The farmers should be able to rally around the association when they are in times of difficulty and greatest need.
Right.
Can we safely and honestly say that is happening presently? I rather think not. I mean, they are providing some services, but I don't think it's adequate. I don't think that they're doing the very best that they should be doing, or what the mandate ask of them to do based on what is legislated. And so the time is high, the tide is high, the time is ripe for us to look at how can we modernize the industry and do more without disenfranchising the farmers themselves. And I keep saying that up until now, even with all the calls I'm hearing that farmers stand strong for your organization, don't allow government to hijack it and all, no one has yet been able to point out the several deficiencies and negative effect that merger or liberalization would have on the farmer. The person who most the government is concerned about. Yes? And I'm not saying that you just have to accept wholesale what is being proposed. And that is why there is a merger oversight committee in place, which constitutes people from both associations, in fact, the chairperson of both associations, to look at what is being proposed, to discuss it with the clientele, which in this case will be the farmers, to ask to have even broader consultation, to get business people, if you so desire, to get the nation, if that is important enough, because you are the oversight committee, to buy into the proposals and to make their recommendations, so that coming out of that, what you would have is something that will bring greater economic and other benefits to our people.
All right. Now, Mr. Bola, on the line with us this morning, we have a gentleman by the name of Remind me of your name again. It just slipped me. Delbert Brave Boy. Good morning, Brave Boy.
Hello, good morning, Ms. Duncan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
All right. Now, Mr. Brave Boy is going to give us a bit of insight into the genesis of the Nutmeg Association, because apparently there's a lot of history surrounding the Nutmeg Association. However, he's also the spouse of a nutmeg farmer. So he should be able to give us some more information as it relates to that. Now, Mr. Brave Boy.
Yes, ma'am.
Give us a little history behind, because in our preamble and when we discussed this morning, you said you were a
historian.
A historian.
To some extent. I've heard him many times before. I've listened to his deliberations on many things in this island. He has a wealth of knowledge, and I so believe that he would have a lot of knowledge on the formation and the early days of the nutmeg, and maybe the Cocoa Association. I'm not too sure. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I hold my breath for what is going to come from Mr. Brave Boy.
Well, now I am excited because I love to learn new things about our country, and anybody that can help with that, I'm always eager and excited to hear. So, Mr. Brave Boy, give us a little background before you give us background on nutmeg, on your family. You said you come from a history of farmers.
Yes, I come from a farming community, right? My father was a farmer. Like I say, my wife is in the farming industry. You know, I'm from Budge Grove in the center, you know, what you of the farming industry. I'm in the community now of Lower Capital, and Lower Capital is about 1 mile away from Upper Capital, and Upper Capital, Bells in Upper Capital, that estate known as Bells, was one of the first area in Grenada where nutmeg was successfully planted. It was brought from Penang in the Indonesian peninsula by Captain John Bell, and he planted that nutmeg in the area of the Bell's estate, officially known today as Penang, which he named after the area that he brought the nutmeg plant from, and the nutmeg did very well in that area. So the whole of Bell's estate was planted with nutmeg. That was complemented when Frangoni came to Belvedere around 1843 and also planted nutmegs on the Belvedere estate, and Belvedere became the largest nutmeg producing estate in Grenada, while Capital Bells was the first estate that grew nutmeg commercially.
Wow.
Now, today the topic of the GCNA, that is a topical issue in our country today. And I want to say to the growers of our country, do not be afraid of the government of Grenada interceding on your behalf in the affairs of the GCNA. And that would now take me to the genesis of the Grenada Cooperative Nutmeg Association.
Okay.
During the period of 1939 to 1946, the period of World War II, the nutmeg industry was in dire strait. And so persons with economic ability to purchase nutmeg was doing so at a very low cost. For instance, one Mr. Francis Noel, who then owned the Balthazar estate, the area where the cocoa farmers now have the Carlton station where they buy cocoa, that was his premises. So Mr. Noel bought a lot of nutmeg and stored it during that period, and he made a whopping sum from his investment. You cannot blame the man for investing in an area that people didn't think would have rebounded. However, in 1942, a number of farmers got together to organize themselves into an association which is known today as the Grenada Cooperative Association. It took the government of Grenada, the then Governor W. Tweeney to send a letter to the Secretary of State informing the Secretary of State of the intention of the Grenada farmers to form an association so to purchase and market the nutmeg under a umbrella body. There was a lot of back and forth. The legislators at that time who supported the individual buyers did not support the GCNA. Men like J.B. Renwick, Frederick Bridgewater Patterson, they opposed the Nutmeg Association, the GCNA, that was opposed. But however, people like John Fleming, T. Noble Smith, and T. A. Marishaw and the others, they supported the GCNA. And that is why today the GCNA is the official bargaining body for the nutmeg growers in Grenada with a monopoly to purchase, process, and export Grenada nutmeg. At every turn of event, the government of Grenada was supportive of GCNA. They brought a gentleman from the colonial office to come here to settle a dispute between the farmers and the merchants who were purchasing. That prevailed, and the farmers won, and so the GCNA continue. However, as it stands today, farmers are being disenfranchised by the present situation in which we find ourselves, which I call a predicament. For instance, Ms. Duncan and Mr. Bola, the fiscal year of GCNA would have ended yesterday, the 30th of June.
Right.
Today, they were supposed to have stock taking to start the new financial year. What happened yesterday? That the GCNA refused to buy nutmeg yesterday, and they are buying today, tomorrow, and Friday. I hope you understand the equation.
Yeah.
I want to say to you, madam, that the GCNA was so structured that what farmers receive when they go to the receiving station and sell the nutmeg is an advance payment. From my personal analysis, there is nothing like back pay. What farmers receive at the end of the year is the percentage that was deducted from the original sale, which they are being given at the end of the year. Yeah. Are you with me, ma'am?
Yes. Can you just hold on that point for 1 minute? Can you, Mr. Brevboy? You're hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Right. Just a moment ago, I made a reference to that, just slightly different from how you said it. I said the upfront payment, and then there was something else back.
I'm not hearing you clearly.
I said just earlier on in the program, I did make reference to that, where what the farmers receive when they go to the receiving station is the upfront payment. What I just wanted to what I just want to verify from you in the history is that arrangement a part of the legislation that governs the association, or was it just an agreement?
It's part of the legislation.
So it's written in the legislation.
Which will deal with period when it was passed in 1950. If you look at the legislation,
we don't have a copy in here with us now, sir.
Right? But what I'm saying, no, as from today, Mr. Bola, Ms. Duncan, right? Farmers in a previous period could have today started tabulating the amount of nutmegs that they sold during the fiscal year, and as a result, they was able to take that, they were able to calculate what the bonus would be at the end of the year. They would use the production book, and they would go to the cooperative bank, which would to take a loan, using that as collateral. They would even go to LA Postal and get material for repairing houses and other things. So it was something that was in the legislation that farmers, was guaranteed to the farmers. And every farmer knew what his bonus would have been when he tabulated, the amount of nutmeg that he sold during the fiscal year. So today, my thing is that, Mr. Bola, Ms. Duncan, that farmers must not be consumed with the politics that is going about the Farmers Union, about the Greener Corporate Nutmeg Association, and government want to take their association. It's nothing like that. We have to understand who is now benefiting. What percentage of the GCNA is shareholding to a farmer? Does the farmer have any interest in the Lagoon Road building, which was built from the money? You look at the building in Grenville, which was sold to Kumar. That building was renovated for a whooping sum, and it was sold for peanuts. And today we see what is happening in that area because the gentleman is an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. The nutmeg GCNA has failed the farmers. They have failed to live up to the obligation, and therefore the government must intercede into its operation to ensure that the farmers who are supposed to be the beneficiary of the product and labor are getting the best results from the produce.
Right. Right. And I mean, that's a lot of information there as it relates to the genesis of cocoa and nutmeg, and of course, currently how it functions. Now, I want you as an individual who is exposed to nutmeg and cocoa farming.
Duncan.
All right. Are you hearing me better now?
Yes.
Okay, as an individual who's exposed to cocoa and nutmeg farming, I want you to give us an idea, because a lot of talk is happening about that the farmers would be disenfranchised and so on. As it stands right now, what are the benefits of the association to the farmer?
This is the point. Farmers are not getting the best result from the products because of the structure. Mm-hmm. You know, the organization as it stands today must be restructured. Mm-hmm. Farmers are not getting the best benefits. Mm-hmm. No, if we let us look at it, ma'am. Let us look at it now, Mr. Bolome Duncan, right? Now, mm-hmm. that nutmeg and the cocoa was the two crops that replaced the prominence of the sugar industry. After the abolition of slavery, which caused the collapse of the sugar industry, the island had to look for other crops for the agricultural sustenance. And so nutmeg and cocoa became a prominent fixture, and then followed by banana in the agriculture sector. Mm-hmm. As someone living in rural Grenada, coming from Budge Grove, or living in Budge Grove, born, grow, live in Budge Grove, I can see the difference and make an analysis of the difference of the period mm-hmm. that has gone before and the period in which we are now, against the background that the farmers were better treated, or the board maintained the status mm-hmm. according to the ordinance that they were obligated to farmers. This is not happening today, Mr. Mm-hmm. Bowler. People of Grenada, analyze what is happening today. For instance, we had 18 receiving stations. They are all closed. We have a there is one central place now in St. Andrews to buy St. Andrew and St. David's crop. Mm-hmm. Farmers are at disadvantage. You know, like I said, when I was growing up, right? People coming into Budge Grove from Adelphi, St. James, they come down with little 10, 12 pounds of nutmeg, was able to sell it at the Budge Grove pool, buy a little thing to go back home to their family and so forth. That no longer exists. Even though you have 10 pounds, you have to go to Grenville to sell it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Wow.
You know? But the substantial fact is, at this point in time, that the liberalization of the board would be in the best interest of the Grenada nutmeg growers. The board has failed in their obligation. 3 months into COVID has exposed the failure of the GCNA in dealing with farmers' affairs. Because if one man, Francis Norcola, buy for 4 and 5 years, how come you have a monopoly from 1947, fully regulated by the Ordinance number 10 of the Act, which deals with the Nutmeg Association, and after 72 or 69 years, you are unable to benefit farmers, then something is wrong, and you are no longer serving the purpose that you were so elected to do, or the design or the construct of the GCNA no longer functions in the best interest of the farmers of this country.
Right. So you took away a little bit there, Delbert, from what I wanted to ask you, because you answered my question even before I asked, because I was about to say to you, if you were to advise farmers really, we understand the construct and the rationale for the association, why it was formed and what its intents were way back then. 70 years ago, we get that. In the present scenario, in the present dispensation, understanding what is happening and the changes in the way things are done, the way trading happens and so on, the need sometimes for us to do value added as opposed to just the sale of the primary product outside there. The fact that we are being told we have one of the better quality in terms of nutmeg and also fine flavored cocoa, which is a high quality. Why do we still need to depend on a middleman in Europe to find markets for us? Why can't we liberalize and open up and have other players of other nationals? I can probably even say people who has the know-how, has the skills, has the technology at their fingertips, and has the money to be part of the industry. And I am not now saying that we must open it up and liberalize it. So anyone who just gets up the next morning and feel they want to do that, that's not the way it should be. And in fact, one legal mind already said, look, there's an act in place that speaks about how we deal with our fresh produce on the export market. There can be, from within the new organization, when merged, a licensing authority so that people would have to get a license and have to, there'd be certain procedures before you can become a trader. Wouldn't that be a lot more beneficial, in your opinion, as an individual and as a person who knows the history?
If we go back in history and you understand that the firms like McCartney and Williams and Huggins and the manner in which they traded in that, Mr. Keto talk about if we now liberalize the market, that the product standard would drop it. Nothing like that. Because, for instance, no, you look, I just want to give you an instance. In Mount Pleasant Estate, I estate in Budge Grove, owned by the DeGale, they never sold green nutmeg to the association. The nutmeg was always dried. I'm saying this to say that we understand how to process our nutmeg for the market. Liberalizing the market, as I say, would be the best thing. Understanding that the people with the financial capacity to do so would not go for any second-hand product. There must be secondary products coming from our nutmeg. Look at Mr. Dennis Noel, the man who made the nutmeg spray. That is a secondary product which went internationally. And so we can take a clue from that industry, Noelville, how we can liberate the nutmeg industry and how our people can benefit. Right here in Mustik in Nyangan 4, you have a massive factory there that was set up by Joel Webb.
Yep.
It is there doing nothing. Can persons who have interest in that entity now get into the nutmeg market, which could be liberalized, and so start making secondary products, be it cosmetic or for whatever else industry. Create the reason. Rather than selling the raw seeds, let us get into secondary products where our farmers and the economy of Grenada will be better served. We must move in that direction in this new dispensation. No longer must we pick up nutmeg and sell in a crocus bag to Europe and Holland and Argentina and these places. We have the capability. Now, if you look at how the the young leaders, when you have the program with the young leaders and how the innovation, the type of things that they do for exhibition, it gave us a clear indication that our young minds are competent and capable to create some products that would be in the best interest of the development of our country, creating employment and creating industry that would employ a significant amount of our people.
Wow.
Can you? I mean, that's a lot of information. We have to take it in silos. I mean, you're giving us, and I do believe that at some future time, we need you, not when things are so aggressive, but when things are settled, to just deal with the history. And I know you are a historian. I've heard you, like I said, on different aspects. But I want to ask you, Delbert, a man who has followed the history of the association, the history of farming and agriculture in Grenada over time. You have clearly said already that you support merger and you support liberalization of the market. And you have highlighted some of the benefits that will derive from it. I want to ask you candidly now, can you identify what the disadvantages will be, the fallout, the negative impact that will occur as a result of merger and liberalization to the farmer, who I believe is the most important object in this whole thing of merger and liberalization, so that they can get greater benefit? Let us not focus on the positives now. Can you identify, and if so, what are those that you think will be the major fallout or disadvantage for the farmer, if that's in our, yeah, or disadvantage? How would they become disenfranchised if at all merger goes ahead, liberalization goes ahead? Can you identify, and if you can, what are those?
All right. So there is no yes or no to that question. I would answer this question by saying, let us look at the multinationals. How small and medium companies has merged and the benefit. You look at the telecommunication system in the United States, and you have seen many smaller companies has merged into bigger companies, and they are getting greater dividends. At no point in time, a merger would defranchise farmers. Like I said before, you look at the number of receiving stations that the GCNA has throughout the country. A merger can utilize those buildings and then make them into industry, because we already have that. We already have the building. A merger would create the avenue for greater benefits to our farmers, because we would be able to save. Now you look at the fleet of vehicles that the both associations buy. How regularly are those vehicles used for transporting nutmeg or cocoa back and forth? Can we have one fleet of vehicles? Can we have one board, one CEO to manage? Can there be a marketing agent to market both cocoa and nutmeg, which would be beneficial to our farmers by having one group of people with the multiplicity effect, so that we're going to minimize the cost while maximizing the value of the income.
And there are so many areas where we're seeing duplication. So, for example, you have two managers, you have two chairpersons, because you have two separate boards, and 80% of the people who grow nutmeg grows cocoa. So the same man, Delbert, is paying a manager to manage cocoa and a manager to manage nutmeg, but he sells both cocoa and nutmeg. Nutmeg
and
is...
And you sell bananas too.
Sorry, yes.
So then now, like I say, we have to understand the psyche of the Grenadian farmer. Let us look at that farmer with 1 acre of land, okay? And that farmer wants everything in that. So he plants some banana, he plants some nutmeg, he plants some cocoa. So he has succeeding crops throughout the year to ensure that he has an income. And he have little dashing and yam and thing on the other side for domestic use. So we must move. I mean, we have to take this thing. We have to forget, like I said, Mr. Bula, Ms. Duncan, growers of Grenada, we have to forget the politics. Do not allow people to tell us that government want to take the ball, and if they take it, you would not have a franchise. Like I said yesterday, you are defranchised. You do not know if you're going to get a bonus. You get an advance payment for your nutmeg, but you do not. There is no guarantee that there's a back pay. What has happened with the monies that you have deducted from my original sale? Let me give you an instance. You're in politics, eh? Now, in 1972, Harry Ogilvy was contesting the election on a ticket of the GNP for the constituency of St. Andrews Southwest. He was a chairman of the GCNA board. A young man in Munich, Benedict Andrew, penned a little calypso. Where did nutmeg bonus? Harry, come and tell us. What we want to know first is that about the surplus. The surplus we had in 66, let's get the matter fixed. Harry was beaten badly by David Sylvester. Because, you see, and if we look at it, no member of the GCNA who participated in active politics in Grenada was ever successful. And I heard Franca say on Sunday that Mrs. Franca Bernardine, let me address her properly, said on Sunday that Mr. Lionel Alexis was her uncle, a man very passionate about agriculture. Lionel Alexis was one of the first Grenadian students to be given a scholarship in agriculture. He wrote the book Agricola. However, in 61, Mr. Lionel Alexis contested general election, and he failed bitterly. And throughout the years, you look at people as Fisher Archibald, Clarence Ferguson, just coming down the road, Clifford Robinson, and all the people who were involved in the nutmeg industry never were successful in an election in Grenada. There are all sorts of skepticism. But I'm saying to our people today, let us take the modern trend. Let us look at what Mr. Noel did with Noelville. And he produced a product from our nutmeg. Our nutmeg are being sold in pharmaceuticals. It is being sold in the preservation of meat. It is in the cosmetic industry. And therefore, based on the industries that the nutmeg is involved in, it's a very lucrative crop, and their farmers must benefit from the product.
A lot more, but just for my own edification, a little bit of history. You would tell me. Well, I think Mr. Francis Noel was he the Noel who owned Noelville? Was that his father?
Was his grandfather.
His grandfather, right? That's what I
wanted
wanted to
verify. It was there, the whole
Carlton, right,
there,
right. But the other thing that probably we should interject here. While not made as a product, a value-added product, did well and is internationally renowned and awarded for it. At one time, Mr. Noel had to import the nutmeg oil out of India in order to make the product.
Because
that says a lot about us.
They refused to sell nutmeg to him.
That says a lot about us.
The GCNA refused to sell nutmeg to Dennis Noel, and so he had to import the raw material, and we have cassettes and grinders and things throwing away here, but he said they wouldn't sell to Mr. Noel to make a secondary product that is beneficial to our country, create employment, and to give nutmeg the prominence in secondary product that it is so well deserving.
But I want to ask you this, Mr. Braveboy, in your personal opinion, because this is the second story that I'm hearing of the Nutmeg Association refusing to sell nutmeg to local individuals trying to make a secondary product out of our nutmeg, which of course, as you say, would create employment, will diversify the sector, would create more revenue for farmers directly, and may possibly and could have possibly led to an increase in the price that nutmeg is being bought for. So in your personal opinion, opinion, why do you believe that the Nutmeg Association acted in that way? Is there something that we are
They was afraid.
missing?
One word. They was afraid of the exposure that they are laid back for so long, and that they were not able, even with the monopoly which they have, to create an industry that has been created by Mr. Noel. So they were afraid that if they sell the nutmeg to Mr. Noel, and Mr. Noel will make a secondary product offering no international acceptance, that they will be, farmers would really, it will be this, it will at this taste in the mouth. So then they have done what I want to say in other words, they have done that to stifle an industry that would expose them not being able to create something of a similar nature.
But we had Mr. St. Bernard, who was with us yesterday or the day before, who also indicated that when he bought over in Niagara Falls the facility, the factory from Mr. Webb.
Mr. Webb.
Yes, he bought that young man that is a chemist. He had bought it over after Hurricane Ivan and named it W.
St. Bernard.
Yeah, W&W Spices. He said when he could not get a constant supply from, or even a contract, he was trying first and foremost to get the association to sign a contract with him to say, look, we can consistently supply you X amount of raw material so that you can manufacture the nutmeg oil. When that failed, he went as far as to offer them shares in the company. Shares so that they become part owner, and they would probably have a greater desire, a zeal to sell him nutmegs so that they can make the secondary product. They accepted, yes, we wanted the shares, but never moved forward, never, and they didn't have to put up money, as far as I learned, that the sale of nutmeg
was traded on the Caribbean Spice Company.
Yes.
And like I said, Mr. Bola, it's a beautiful facility. There is water flowing there. There is no problem. Access road, the compound is very nicely.
And it's fenced and everything.
So you see, so you have Mr. St. Bernard, who is an example, and you have Mr. Noel, that the GCNA, two Grenadian entrepreneurs, and and like I say, Mr. Noel is an agronomist. He worked his life in the agriculture sector.
He did.
He knows the industry, and he has a clear knowledge as to how we can produce secondary products for the benefit of our country. Yet, the GCNA did not see through that lens.
But
it tells you that something is wrong with the GCNA, and they are using the monopoly, the monopoly which they have, to purchase and to export Grenada nutmeg. If we had a liberalized market, then Mr. St. Bernard and Mr. Noel would have been able to buy from other source the raw material to make the end product.
all right.
So
Now,
it becomes even more important at this point in time to liberalize the market.
all right.
It
Now,
is extremely important that we do not look through our political lens
yeah.
in going forward with this industry, but to look at it from the point of view that it can enhance and develop our sector. It can create employment. It can expand the entrepreneurial skills of our young people, not looking for a job, but creating jobs for other persons, and become chemists so as to develop a product that will be second to none with a single product in our country. We look at we look at one of our black scientists, George Washington Carver, and you see how many things he did from sweet potatoes and peanuts. Mm-hmm. One of the first black scientists to get involved in the agriculture sector. I want to say, Mr. Buller, Ms. Duncan, throughout the ages, Grenada has produced a product in agriculture that is second to none in the world. In 1649, when you packaged Grenada to plant tobacco, in 1650, 1651, when the Grenada tobacco hit the world market, it was graded as premium grade tobacco. As a result, the merchant in England was charged higher tariff for merchants buying tobacco from Grenada than those coming from Virginia in the United States of America. When we grew coffee, when our coffee hit the English market, again the same thing happened to the producers. Then the British government had to pass a legislation to put a seal on Grenada coffee so as to protect the tea coming from Ceylon. Ceylon is now Sri Lanka. They make tea and was selling and was exporting to England. So throughout the ages, every agriculture product that is made in Grenada is world class and premium grade. Liberalize the nutmeg industry. Let our young minds develop the entrepreneurial skills to create product that is of world class. We cannot do that with the present construct of the GCNA, who refuses to sell the raw material to entrepreneurs to create such a market or an avenue for people to propel themselves forward.
All right. Well said. Very well said, Mr. Braveboy. And you have given us quite a lot to think about. Yourself and Mr. St. Bernard yesterday has provided us with a wealth of information, different perspectives on how we should view this issue as it stands. I don't know if Mr. Bowler has any further questions for you.
But just straying away a little bit, it is related. But what we had some time ago, Mr. Braveboy, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen or view them in their entirety, but I just want to read two paragraphs for you. We had Senator Terry Noel, who is one of the new opposition senators that sworn in recently, immediately sending out a statement saying that, and the two things that were the two lines I want to read to you. And I just want to hear your response towards that.
Mr. Buller, I've not seen
or heard
the document written by Mr. Noel. But however, we must avoid the scare them tactics.
Right.
So I refer to this thing as scare them tactics. So and they must realize today that the farmers today are a different group of intellects to the farmers of 1951 and the 40s. And therefore, our present-day farmers must look through the lens of the development of the industry and how it would benefit. For instance, in 1976, the income from nutmeg surpassed that of cocoa, banana, and tourism in the stabilization of the local economy. So what people are saying today is scare them tactics. And I want to say to farmers again, do not look through your political lens, but look through the lens which says that what is proposed is in the best interest of our people, is in the best interest of our country, and would give our people the greatest benefit to develop themselves. To create scientists. Like I say, look at the young leaders, Mr. Bull. Look at the kind of products they're producing. So what we're saying that our people already have shown that they have the mantra to move forward. They need the support and they needed to ensure that they have an area of development protected in such a way that will bring greater benefit and to ensure the sustenance of any industry that is so venture to get into in the agriculture sector. They would have the relevant legislation to protect them is in the same way between 1942 and 1951 that legislation was passed to protect the GCNA. The time has come, after 72 years, that there must be a paradigm shift in the manner in which we are doing business because the world is in a different way, Mr. Bowler, Ms. Duncan.
All right. Very well said, Mr. Brave Boy. A lot for us to think about. We are running out of time, but I do want to thank you very much for taking the time to come out here today and speak to us and educate us. Most importantly, on what is happening, and of course, providing us with an objective point of view on how we should look at this merger and liberalization of the nutmeg and cocoa industry.
Like I said, Ms. Duncan, merger is the best thing. Liberation with merger is the best thing for us. And you heard the minister that will save million, at least in the first year. We'll save we'll save at least $1 million in the overall management of the organization. We just want to save $1 million. And we know that the organizations are top heavy.
Yeah.
They are top heavy.
With some huge salaries, eh?
Yeah, they are top. They are top heavy. And I mean, and I always say that we have people today, farmers suffered under this organization, and they still own lacquer for the little more coffin that their grandfather was buried in. We have to change that.
Yeah.
We have to change that. And I'm saying again in closing that our young people have the entrepreneurial skills. They have the desire to be adventurous, and we must create the platform for them to move forward. And that should be the hallmark and the watchword of any progressive government who is worth their salt, who has the interest of our young people, who has the interest of the nation, and to ensure that such important industry does not go under with some persons who have failed and do not want to move in the present era as to how business is being conducted. We cannot go down the same road after 70 years. There must be changes, and there must be a paradigm shift, and our young people must be guaranteed that they can invest, they can take their chances, and they can raise money to invest in a market that they know that is well protected, and so that will give them the confidence and the impetus to develop themselves and to develop our country. This is my closing statement.
Well, we thank you so very much again, Mr. Brave Boy. We will endeavor sometime in the future, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on the issue of nutmeg and the associations, but you have a wealth of history. Could be on any subject matter. We will consult with you. But again, we thank you, and we thank your family too for allowing you to sit in the comfort of
my pleasure.
Of the living room to talk to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I hope that what you have said would be digested by a lot of farmers, and they will understand that this move is definitely not to disenfranchise them, but to empower them to do more. Thank you again, sir.
Empowerment is the operative word, Mr. Ebola. Empowering our people. Empowerment, that's the operative word.
Thank you.
Thank you very kindly.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. Again, Mr. Bola, a wealth of information, a lot of history as it relates to cocoa and nutmeg in Grenada.
And there you go. I was about to read a little bit of the statement from the NDC and, standing firm, to fight with farmers against the aggression of government. Where is the aggression, But let's leave that aside. What we are saying is that there are people out there who understand the nature of the formation of these associations, why they were formed, and the purposes they served at the time they were formed. They still have a purpose to serve. But we need to make that paradigm shift, as the caller said, as Mr. Bivboy said. We need to see things as they are presently and not through the political lens. Mm-hmm. It has little or absolutely nothing to do with who gets votes and who doesn't get votes. Yeah. It's about the economic benefits that can be derived from doing things differently in this new era. Yes?
Yeah.
In this time where things have changed and things have shifted, and people can now benefit far more than they have been benefiting. We have had some failures, we have had some successes, but we can have far more successes if we look at this thing objectively, if we respond to it objectively, if the oversight committee does what they are supposed to do, look at the legislation, reach out to the farmers, look at the proposal moving forward, and let the farmers have their say, go back in committee, sit down, make recommendations, have the legislation merge, liberalize, get things going, young people being involved, getting an opportunity to play their part with their skills, with the knowledge that they have now in this present day, with the use of technology to make the industry as it should be, a profitable industry for Grenada, one that can help transform, along with the other things that we do, the Grenadian public. I want to suggest one thing, Ms. Duncan, as we close, because we are surely running out of time. We are almost there. I want to suggest that since we have had 2 or 3 days of packed information, that our listeners might be saturated, that very early tomorrow, please God spare our life and we can have another program, we can open up the lines.
Yes.
So that farmers and other people who want to have their say, who have an objective view to give, or maybe have a question that they want to ask. We are not the repository of all knowledge here. That's why we are bringing in other people who we believe who knows and have a greater understanding than we do, and to express themselves, because this is no longer a closed scenario. I think the hope was that the oversight committee and the associations would have been able to have internal discussion, to discuss with farmers, and then open it up to the public to a certain extent before you move forward. But it has been in the public domain even before those inside got an opportunity. But it's not new. I mean, it's something that has been talked about, like we say. Studies have been done for over the last 20 years. So it's a subject matter that probably not all of us are very versed on, because we never took the time off to listen, to look, to read, to understand what was happening until now, that the reality hits us in the face. But it's a time when I think we can give people a chance to call in, make objective comments, say what they think is the best way in going forward. No one can say to you that whatever you suggest or propose will get into legislation or get into the business, but at least it can be considered. And we oftentimes, when suggestions are given, try as best as we can to pass it on to the relevant people who should effect what the suggestions are. So as we close, I just want to thank everyone again for their participation. Certainly, I hope Ms. Duncan would agree with me to give you an opportunity tomorrow. Please, God, for your calling.
Yes,
please try and enjoy the rest of the day. Be safe, be secure. Remember your physical distancing. Wear a face covering when you are out in public, and make sure that we keep ourselves safe. We had made much gains with the COVID-19. Let us not let our guards down now, to allow us to fall back into a stage where we have to be quarantined again as a nation. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. And as we leave you, we want to leave you with this quote. It says, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. From Nelson Mandela. Each one, teach one. Don't hold all the information you have to yourself. Teach it to someone else. Guys, it's always a pleasure being here with you. In whatever you say and whatever you do, be safe, be secure. We always want to be talking with you, but never about you. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Final batch of Grenadian seafarers to be repatriated by sea, now on home soil. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Tuesday, June 30th, 2020, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The last batch of Grenadian seafarers to be repatriated via sea by the government of Grenada arrived on Tuesday via MSC Amona. The cruise line brought home 36 nationals who were all happy to be home after being stranded for months at sea. They went through all the standard established protocols before being transported to their quarantine facility for the next 14 days. Minister for Tourism and Civil Aviation, Dr. Clarice Modeste Kerwin, was on hand to welcome the group. Minister Modeste Kerwin told the GIS that the batch of 36 is the last significant number of stranded seafarers to be repatriated.
We have received some information, one person here, two persons there. Most of these persons, the intention is to repatriate them by air, and so they're waiting for certain ports to open and so on. So it is a little bit complicated, but it's not undoable.
She says the entire COVID response team has done a great job in helping to flatten the curve, which has resulted in 0 cases and no death in the country at this time.
You may get the odd positives, and based on what the world scientists are saying, it is going to be with us for a while. So I think this is something we have to learn to accept, to work with, and very importantly, be very vigilant. I think we fall asleep very often. We don't hear any new case. We hear Grenada has been COVID-free for a while. So we say, okay, it's party time. Let's be close, let's don the mask. Let's forget the physical distancing, the hand washing, and this is of great concern to me and our government and the conscientious Grenadians as a whole. And I want to remind persons, let us not let down our guard, because if you just listen to the news, where we thought that numbers were going down and okay, we've seen the end of COVID, that is not in sight. Just see how the numbers are growing in certain places.
The COVID-19 pandemic, she says, is far from over based on World Health Organization information and global news coverage. In this vein, the tourism minister is urging Grenadians not to let their guards down.
We have to continue our vigilance, continue our dedicated work to observing the protocols, because everybody is saying wearing masks and social distances, these things saves life. So who are we to argue? Let us just do what we have to do, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
Government continues to point out the importance of a merger of the Grenada Cocoa and the Cooperative Nutmeg Associations to boost the livelihood of farmers. The proposed merger is not a new subject and was recently raised again by the Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, as an option that will serve the best interests of farmers and significantly reduce the cost associated with managing the commodity boards. Agriculture Minister Honorable Yola Bain Hosford, Trade Minister Honorable Oliver Joseph, and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture Elvis Moraine appeared on the GBN's Beyond the Headlines program on Monday to provide clarity to the general public on the matter. Minister Bain Hosford said the proposed merger is not a new gesture. However, COVID-19 has presented the opportunity to push to implement the much-needed change within both associations.
We have an opportunity now. COVID-19 has given us an opportunity to make changes. If you look at the world over, all persons are trying to shift and make decisions, change things to suit and to better their corporations. People are reflecting on their lives to move forward. There are new opportunities for persons to grab onto and focus on. And so it's not that we are pushing or pushing anything down anyone's throat. COVID has exposed us to opportunities. And we think now is the time that people are thinking change, because you speak to a lot of people and you hear them talking about change and reflection and all of that. And I think this is the right opportunity.
Her colleague Minister Oliver Joseph stressed that the associations cannot continue to operate at a loss. He said there is need for radical restructuring, which will yield more profit and more bonus for farmers in the end.
Production has declined dramatically following Hurricane Ivan and Emily in 2004 and 2005. And industry organizations both are in financial crisis. The present system is unsustainable and a radical restructuring of the industry is needed to maintain its survival. So we need to deal with the facts. The proposition is that the asset of the two associations should be capitalized and a new limited liability company established to take over existing assets and function. The new company should give early emphasis to the revitalization of the cocoa and nutmeg industries so that within 5 years, it could develop as a premier agro-industrial business on the island.
Permanent Secretary Elvis Moraine is confident that with proper management, things can be different with both associations and the beneficiaries.
That entity is not where you would like to see, not bringing the requisite benefits to farmers. And as such, you're finding ways to cut savings, to get monies that can really fulfill the purpose of what the ordinance and, of course, the association represent. Because as you know, one of the things that farmers look forward to is the issue of bonus. And if you can't manage to that level, if you can't find ways to cut, we know, of course, there are the challenges in terms of the international market and the prices on the international market. However, when those things happen, you have to find ways to manage and to see where you can cut costs. Everybody at some point has to cut costs to get forward. And that is, of course, the genesis behind all of this, in terms of the discussion that we've had.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Do you still have EC 1 and 2 cent coins? If you do, then you have until the end of this month, 30th June, to spend them, exchange, or deposit them at your commercial bank. After 30th June, you will not be able to use your 1 and 2 cents as they will no longer be legal tender. Find them, spend them, exchange or deposit them at your commercial bank. Act now and receive value for your 1 and 2 cent coins by 30th June.
Welcome back. The Royal Grenada Police Force will conduct a tabletop exercise this year in place of the annual simulation exercise in preparation for the hurricane season. Acting Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin explained that the exercises are usually done to test the mobilization capacity and versatility of the force. He describes it as the next best option with regard to the hurricane simulation exercise.
This year, because of the COVID-19 environment, we will not be able to carry out the usual simulation exercise that we do in getting our troops ready should in case we are impacted by a weather system. Nonetheless, we will be carrying out a tabletop exercise for all of our commanders, and we will invite stakeholders to participate in this tabletop exercise. We will also, during this tabletop exercise, be drilling down at least 3 command levels below the commander of respective stations and departments to ensure that we build redundancy if we happen to be impacted with any weather system.
Superintendent Vanny Kerwin, the officer in charge of community relations, speaks to what the force has been doing to ensure that it is prepared for any eventuality.
We have completed our inventory station by station and have done our needs analysis identifying our gaps. We have identified our safe houses in the event that we have to relocate any of our police stations. We have identified our forward deployment locations and are working with business owners to form up final details should the need arise. We urge every Grenadian to develop a family plan for the family and to procure essential medical and other emergency and essential supplies, ensuring that flashlights, transistor radios, charged cell phones are part of the listing. Important documents must be secured in waterproof containers, and drinking water to last a few days must be stored. Our emergency numbers of 911, 4403-999, and all police stations can be contacted for assistance once telephone services are operational in the passing of any hurricane or other weather system.
Continuing with the news, the government of Grenada is playing a part in the repatriation of non-nationals who arrived on board MSC Amona on Tuesday with more than 30 Grenadians. Tourism Minister Dr. Clarice Modeste Kerwin says the government is facilitating the repatriation of the other cruise ship workers to other Caribbean islands and Latin America via chartered flights at the MBIA on Wednesday.
This time, they have asked us to allow them to transit those passengers from this port, our cruise ship port, to the airport, where they will be taken up by a charter flight. As far as I understand, there are 2 chartered flights. There are some 7 persons who are going to 1 or 2 Caribbean islands. They will be taken by a small charter. And there are others from Latin America, Peru, El Salvador, and they will transit through Grenada.
She's happy that her government can assist in this regard, being a very stressful time for those who, like their Grenadian colleagues, are anxious to return home.
Not just the cruise ship, but for the people, because we are all aware that they have been suffering psychologically, emotionally, and however else for the past few months. And if we can assist in any way to help them to get home faster, I believe that would make us very, very proud. So we are working on the logistics. They will not disembark.
In the process of dealing with the non-nationals, all the established protocols will be followed.
They will be tested before disembarkation. We will know the results. And these persons that I've spoken about, they will disembark tomorrow morning, just in time to catch their flight and to move on. So the ship will be here overnight, and tomorrow morning the transit will be enacted, and I hope they all get home safely.
Finally, in the news, 2 weeks after the People's Republic of China donated machinery and equipment to the Ministry of Agriculture, one farming organization is singing praises after being the recipient of a power tiller. Karima Lewis has more in this report.
The Rastafari Organization for Centralization, which has been in operation for the past 14 years, is the first group to benefit from the donation by the People's Republic of China, as the Ministry of Agriculture recognizes its efforts in ensuring that the less fortunate be taken care of. The power tiller was handed over during a short ceremony at the Marine Propagation Station last Thursday. With its mandate to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, protect the aged and nourish the sick, a member of the organization, Maureen Matthew Charles, explains that this machine will lessen on the manual labor experienced in farming.
Coming here today to receive this power tiller is a very good initiative for an eye. It will help us in a long way because we use fork and hose and, so getting something like this, it will help us a long way. We might take 3 or 4 days to fact somewhere where we had the tiller, we will take less. So we will have more time instead of we facking, we will be planting, So it will help us in a long way.
Charles hopes that with this piece of equipment, the organization will have a chance to soar to new heights.
I'm hoping that it will bring the organization right up to its peak, like rise it from the ground to come up. Because we need lifting up, And with the tiller, I think it will encourage more to come in and do the work, because it's not only manpower, like machine power, so we will encourage more. So I think we will reach in a far way in the next 2 years.
This power tiller will work wonders in the aeration of the soil, giving crops a chance to be properly nourished. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
Thank you, Karima. That story just ended the national report for today, Tuesday, June 30th. Let's recap the top story. Final batch of Grenadian seafarers to be repatriated by sea now on home soil. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.